Jesus, the Hafidan, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jesus Masi, for being here this evening. Tonight, we have an informational hearing by the Committee on Municipal Affairs, Tourism, Housing, and Historic Preservation. We'll call it to order at 5:14 p.m. For the record, I want to say notices of this hearing, roundtable discussion were sent out via email to all the senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Friday, June 24th, and the second notice was sent out on Monday, June 27th, which adheres to the Sunshine Act, which adheres to the public notice requirements. Today, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are here joined with the representatives of the Haya Foundation, who was provided with some funding from the Tourist Attraction Fund. Haya Foundation will be presenting a brief overview of the work that they have done so far, including the state of traditional healing here on our island. They will also discuss a brief history of the foundation, present a documentary called Amot para Ihinemlota, talk about the current efforts, the specific challenges, and the threats and opportunities, as well as strategies moving forward. I'd like to thank my good colleague, Senator Tony Atta, who's taken the time after working hours to join us here, because we feel that this is a very important subject as we continue to promote, advocate, perpetuate, and the strength of our history, our traditions, and just everything that is the island of Guam and our Chamorro people. So with that being said, here joining us, I do know, is Ms. Zita Pangilinan, Mrs. Francis Mano, and Mr. Harvey Barnes. Undankal na si Diyos Masi for coming here this evening. Again, Senator Tony Atta, thank you very much. And with that being said, I turn the floor over to you, Ms. Zita.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's really a great pleasure to be here, and primarily to also thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Atta, for all your support, for all the efforts that we have done, your presence, your understanding of the importance of our traditional healing practices has really given us the ánimo to move forward, and especially, with the Zo'amtis that we have on island. And I'd like to again thank our Iman Zo'amti here, Francis Meno and Harvey Barnes, who have been working today at the Gumat Zo'amti, and you'll hear more about that. But perhaps maybe I can ask Harvey and Francis to share about their current expertise and experience at the Gumat Zo'amti that opened during FestPac of this year.
Thank you. Most of all, I'm here today to support the belief that spiritual healing is alive, and that the belief in that has kind of dwindled in our times now, because there's more clinics, there's more hospitals, and there's more belief that the hospitals can do these things. To tell you the truth, spiritual healing can heal you if you believe. And that's what we want to perpetuate in this culture now, that there's other ways of healing people. And this way that we do it is with love. And that's a lot of it's missing in our culture now, is having some peace and love in your heart to take care of people. And with that, I say, it's going forward. People are starting to believe. Just word of mouth of us healing people from day one is passing on. And can you imagine another year from now what will happen if you all support us? It will grow on stronger. Even the young kids, you wouldn't be surprised how much they believe, more than the older folks. Thank you.
Sige, por favor.
Okay. No. Isti para manomtini ininggekul isti kini mababay fespag bula tumungu sta purhami. Lani manahamia tauza tumungu pur monu ni manyasaga hazi manjo amtisia. Meganya na no pur gini ni pacuri tautau na man na atungu monu guatusia. Lo ani mababay fespag mga zaman intutuna mi giurugi haza Contesti Haya Foundation giza SKC giguma zo amti bula man talakalo. Pes kwaha siya no bula in lasa man amti man manay amot. Pes istapagwa na oras siga man halum itaw to za no afet bula ni zi man maguf. Kwaha zi man pus no bula man put itaw niya man guf zafay. Pes kaya si Harvest yan ti Rose Marteo Guaho no magay na sinya pesangin mana sisita amot na ipisimpati na no si nanay. Pes kana todo klase ina amti para asma, para patgun, amko, yan ang putin talanga, nilig niya ear infection. Todo sa mas no para diskuti kwata lusya ni ji ganyan ni spiritu ni manafan malongo. Sinya lokwi jo guaw neno si Kiko San Nicolas lokwi no mano ante. Lo lamigay sta. No, sta pagod mami appointments. Kulan ko makat sa guana dia ni bula lahat. Toto ni bula walk-ins na. Ano appointments namin. Lo magay na malik sa gagisisita sa ginigwiza naman nagwahan ni Haya Foundation ni Parego Mazo Amti. Des pago ni sinya man motitaw tawlo sa an matse kami. Oh, thank you.
Si Josma, si Saina.
And with me now is Jessica Nangauta. She is one of our apprentices, but her presentation will come after. Okay. So I'll go ahead and give you a brief overview about our Haya Foundation's mission. It's to enhance the well-being of our people. And give you a few about our story, how we started, what we did, what we've learned, and then to the presentation of our findings, which we produced in this documentary that you'll be watching, as well as the accomplishments and where to from here. This way back in 2005, like we said, we were recognizing challenges as our people in preserving and protecting and perpetuating our language, our culture, and traditional values. It was a lot of discussion. And what we did was we initiated conversations. We held Chamorro Cultural Institutes in 2005 and 2006. And then we collaborated with the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas, Rototinian and Saipan, and worked in the Finetnana Conferencia in Chamorro, Iminat Dosna Conferencia in Chamorro, Itetset, Iminat Cuatro. And then, as a result of all this dialogue and conversation, our focus evolved to a specific need, and that was traditional healing practice. Many people were calling us, hey, do you know a Surahano or Surahana? No one, and it was just really a desperate need at that time. And we asked ourselves the question, what have we lost our traditional healing practice that has served our people for over 4,000 years? How do we explain it to this generation or the next? We've been collaborating, and Dr. Trish Lizama is part of our team, but she also did her research on Iman Zoamti. And according to her research and study entitled Zoamti, a deeper healing of type of healing exploring the state of indigenous Chamorro healing, there were two themes common amongst the Marianas, and that's the difficulties of passing traditional healing knowledge on to family members and gaining access to medicinal plants. But not just gaining access, we're also losing plants. The other issues where there was skepticism, and still is, fear by Imanzo Amti of the exploitation of Amut. And we're finding out now with a greater interest in the Amut is people now self-proclaiming themselves to be Zoamtis and trying to make money or profit off of that. the difficulties, like I said, with accessing medicinal plants and herbs behind the fence, and then the loss. But we see that children of Imanzo Amti are not wanting to take on the tradition because of the hardships involved, the difficulties that they've seen their parents or grandparents go to. So there's no family or very few family members to pass it down. And then that conflict of values of humility that has passed on from generation to generation versus the self-promotion or banidoso. The other reason why we evolved to focus on this was the declaration of the state of health emergency due to the epidemics of non-communicable diseases declared by the PIHOA. This is cancer, the rate of cancer in our amongst our residents, stroke, heart disease, smoking, obesity, as well as not just the physical side, but also the psychological and mental health, as was recognized by the Behavioral Health in Micronesia Conference on Indigenous Perspective, where they said, we see more today that our people are not well, they're confused and they struggle. They are strangers to the cycles of nature. You know what our parents know, or what our grandparents know. Our young people are hurt. They sometimes hurt others. They find ways to blame and do things harmful to themselves, to their parents. We see high incidences of suicide. And so we came together as a people at the first Amit conference in September 2012. And our theme to this day is Tanatlatla Tapaktika, Zenta Protehi Amota, Zen Hinamot Tagikutarata. And this we always do with all our work in consultation and in collaboration with the CNMI. So at that first Amit conference, we were expecting probably 75 people. 277 participants came. And at the conference, resolutions were passed. The overall resolution is to promote and perpetuate Native healing systems through programming, policies, and education, land use, and healthcare initiatives. So the work we've been doing for the past 10 years has been focused on this. To reclaim the value of our traditional healing, to promote awareness. And I think, since then, I think there's been a lot more discussion of Amit. We've been doing a lot more research. One area that is now taking a lot of our attention is to understand and the awareness of our connection to land and our respect for the land. And the environment. One of the resolutions that was passed is to have 3 areas for Amit to survive. We need the shores, coastal shores, mountains, and valleys to keep the medicinal plants that exist in its natural environment, and to address policies and laws which penalize our Imanzoamti when they go and pick plants. They're being threatened for getting access with and getting arrested. Restore our ecosystem to its original state. We've been involved in identifying native plants, even with our GPS now. So for the past 3 years, we've been going out and collecting plants, identifying it, and where it's at, and the GPS. So another resolution is to establish registry of Imanzoamti. I contacted Kaha to ask them for their registry, and many of those people have passed. And so I think out of their current registry, there's only 2. We've been developing ours. But again, part of the challenge, right, is Imanzoamti. They will not come forward. We're very fortunate that these Zoamtis have, because they recognize the need, but we still have many out there who have told us they are, but we're very careful as to how we provide that information. So we've been kind of like the main contact for a lot of, when they ask us to refer them, and But now I think it's easier because we have a Gumat Zoamti at the Second Katuran Tomorrow, so they have free access. We've been working on a registry as well for plants and Amit, and the assessment and inventory of medicinal plants throughout the island. And we've also been working on our apprenticeship program. Currently, we have 4. We're looking at expanding the apprenticeship. And aside from the apprenticeship, we're working with the institutions of higher learning because we're developing a curriculum right now for UOG, Chamorro Cultural Studies, and with the schools. We have plans to try and bring it into the public school system, at least to pilot it.
You also have it at GCC?
Not yet. We're just. I'm gonna cut through because I know we have limited time, but just to give you a general overview before we start our documentary. So our specific goal right now is to heal ourselves, our families, and our home, and we believe it's time to reclaim our cultural inheritance and wean our bodies. That we cook food from our land and ocean is a micro-revolutionary act that honors our ancestors and the generations to come, which we have a lot to learn. In all the work that we've been doing, we've been learning so much from our Zoamtis. Eating our ancestral foods can help us prevent and treat the diseases that results from adopting the standard American diet. Here's some of the things we've done. We've gone to schools and we connected learning the gardens and food, culture, health, and environment. We've partnered with the University of Guam Cooperative Extension, Public Health, St. Francis, Jonia Mayor, and Jonia Community as one of our pilot sites. And we've really gotten support, but we also hosted community garden workshops where we invite the entire island, and we had like 4 or 5 series, and people were really appreciative. And so the workshops were helping, and so we would have it every other month, and people would come back and ask questions of these experts. We've also had 3 documentaries to date. Produced 3 documentaries. One was Izoamti, Iman Zoamti. The second one is Amana Nagagi Iman Zoamti Siha. And the third one, which is what we're going to watch now, is Amat Para Ihinamlota. And so, without further, do you have any questions at this point?
No.
Okay.
Excellent presentation.
And I'm not sure how this. Okay.
I think what I also want to keep in mind, Ms. Sita, is how can we continue to work even through the education system, working closely with GPS and the superintendent of DOE to see how our students here on Guam, all the schools, starting from the elementary level and even the preschools, to see how we can take this program and integrate it in so that so that we don't lose what we have today. And I think that's where I want to continue to move the focus on, not just about the preservation, but also about the teaching, and teaching it at a very young age.
Yeah, I think we've already initiated discussions, and what we like to do is always just start with one school and pilot, and then learn from that, because we did learn from St. Francis, and so we've moved on, and so hopefully the next step we'll do a lot better. So this is the documentary.
Does it get louder? Does it get louder though? Okay, then we'll just check. If not, then...
Alat para ihinamlota is a look at Chamorro traditional healing practice as it exists today. Having survived over 4,000 years amidst conquest and wars, the Western influence in our society, there is a great concern today as to whether it can even survive the next 2 generations. Ahmed is often referred to by the people of the Marianas as medicine or herb, but there is also a different meaning when used as a verb. It means dispossess, deprive by force, take something away, or perhaps in this context, it could also mean reclaim. Para ihinamlota, translated, means for the recovery and restoration of our health. This documentary looks at the current state of Chamorro traditional healing practice and the challenges in preserving Ahmed as medicine to restore the health of the indigenous people of the Marianas. Can the indigenous people of the Marianas, Ahmed, take back, reclaim, recover, and reestablish a community of believers to restore their health? Dr. Tricia Lizama, a descendant of a healer, professor, mother of 6, has spent the past 5 years searching for those answers. Her journey takes her throughout the Marianas, meeting and interviewing Imanzo Amti Siha, our Chamorro traditional healers. The healers share their experience, their challenges as it relates to the impact of Western influence and colonialism, as well as their hopes for the perpetuation of their practice. She also meets with people diligently working towards the preservation and perpetuation of the Chamorro traditional healing practice.
When I was growing up, I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandma used to always make omelet. A lot of us were treated, umpteen, when we were children. Why aren't we doing this anymore? If it helped us, if these are the memories that we have, the stories that we grew up, what kind of stories am I going to tell my children? My grandma died when I was in high school, and so we didn't really carry it on. And so when I was doing my dissertation, I thought, I needed to have a lot of questions answered. So I thought, what a better way to do research, right? And I wanted to find a topic. And I went through different topics, but what resonated with me was I needed to do something with my own culture, right? I needed to pick something where I was not just going to write a dissertation, but I wanted to contribute to building the knowledge of our culture, because there isn't very many things that are written about our Chamorro culture. I've been doing my research for about 5 years now, right? And I've had an opportunity to interview over 30 traditional healers in Guam, Saipan, Rota, and Tinian.
Because when you say you're a Surahanu, you're carrying a very, very high title of healing and having ability to heal people. And that also, in that concept, it has to be passed down by your forefathers to your generation, their generation to you.
Treating people because I felt like I need to do it. And if I turn them, I feel guilty about it and I don't feel right. So I need to. While I'm still alive and I still can do it, then I'm going to go for it. But if I cannot, I will let you know that I cannot treat you at this certain way. Ututuhun tumungo iamot ni anay 20 years. 20 years. Mauli ko todo. Okay. Kaya ukog Disney manggagaw mo ito.
So taza high blood, taza
diabetes, taza cholesterol.
Mauli.
You look at a person that has an interest, love, patience, and charitability, heart, and kind and sacrificial, of his time and kaya no sacrifice himself to a sick person, for a sick person like what I'm doing. This is a rare gift.
Ako si Fermina Ogo Blas, Dr. Ruta. Lawas mo ni Gonzaga isti amot ta. Sa isti amot ta manunggi jo. Na isti pinini na Gonzaga pinini na ihapan nuntu na amon ne pom pinamauli. Pagwangin ti pinamauli ka un isti na amon. Pues eso na nga chakot ako na hospital.
Pues kung si Tomas doin nos medio. Di sana ba olong jo am tido padhofa lo hundan mana am tido. No, jadi dia dokwe na klasin. No pinadesi si jo amte na fuesan hagonauto siya na magaipe. Gelang tono na kanuta.
Inaano si Carmen Batuon? Katuluta? Sa uamti ang mutininong San Antonio. Dahil sige uno na nahagon na tungkol amot no una si Sibi agon niya.
Inaano si Florencia Manibusan Opera. Ito tono na matampiso in 1970. Ano yung malangoy na iyo at itututong matampi. Hindi na ito gano'n 38 anos.
Gua si Vitor Malibusan Mora ginintinihan. Si tinituno nesti putondan amot no wawa atau sinanaw pranong tono babi ko hito diamo apa na klasin amot kumapatimas. Sa gov magudzo ni istina klasin tinino sa ajudanti para di diferentes klasin cenno di sinya kaunti.
No, amota tumatanya san tinaitay san iti okay no hinengi. Hinengi na debit na tahong gina mauli para hita no pero different pero para harau medkot ihinengi para ko ang importante sa parewa yaman nagtiba ang mga hospital sa manoy so amazang ito gefongi na istina amin na no doctor sempiti tu parewa in effect na gizagawa zani zangino kong hipos parewa na ihinengi mampus importante.
Ano si Dono Benaventimento wala? Lo tato sa ipan sa Moruso. Pues yan para be maybe años. At yun no kulmaro no interesado sa leso. Do maado sa 5 cents si Biyaho na lang tataw. Kasi niya fanabizo no amo. Do naito tiningon niya fanabizo.
Lalo si Ignacio Salas Concepcion. Mafanyago sa ginigil sa ipan. Lumangkulong sa ipan so pabeta por amor ibiyaw sa suar kornizo paben spiay tungkulamo siya jetpass kasi gininedyo na tungo siya po afa siya klase na amot.
Hi, my name is Rosa. In the future, if I see that my grandchildren are not interested, it will make me sad, and because I'm so eager for them to learn it, but I can't do anything. So if anyone, I'm willing to pass it on for as long as they will promise me that they will do the medicine, help the people, and not to lose. Because I don't want this to, end it.
In this kind of profession or this kind of training or should I say, ability, you need to be committed. You need to be committed. You sacrifice a lot of your family time. And you need to be strong in your mind and in your heart.
It's not even that, but see, the thing about it is, how honest and faithful can they be?
Develop kina healers who confirm Haji man authentic healers and Haji the self-proclaim. Apology say self-proclaim. Ne cinema proclaim shall the official na man recognize.
Well, only three were called the healers, but there's only one person that would heal. Is the one on there. He's the one that does the healing.
Unata ni malomo na tangkulo na respeto da gloria benti alla cuenta peor pudena para tanahumlo na pinadisimo na.
Patience has to be in there, and the love, caring, and opening. You need to have that, and you cannot just project.
Debitali para hafano mataiwihi na cheno jata anti aji no machino nunda kaya lumeno con todo espiritual debe de or sa ti fisikan mo para ta anti con todo y antimo jani inasomo jasina no mano tatis tena na mafanako ja anu geno sempre ko istina chenon mo no chenon niga pa istina na chenon pat ko istina chenon sinya taranglo pati sinya taranglo para istina chenon cuántos años están en gote así que mona dan istina chenon.
The simplest thing to do is the application. That's the easiest. But going out there to look for the herbs is the hardest thing.
Itiningo Joamti. Primero na supo na gaigigi para un masta yan tono ilugar sa ichungkunot siya ni mangaigigi no guano tangkulo no na respeto po ako gigitayin nila ilang ginutatan yan tono.
But learning the medicine is not just, it's not like going in there and having a degree for a doctor. No. It all depends on your energy, on your body. Learning the herbs, and here you are, even if we teach you how, and you start giving that treatment to that person and it doesn't heal. So it wasn't, because even for us, I give myself 3 days. If there's no slight change out of the 3 days, I urge them to go and seek another person, especially on the guts and I'm like, just 3 days and no changes and everything is the same, then I cannot heal that person. You need to switch it. Go to another healer.
Ang titakon, Tres Dias. Ang gintihiningog gi Tres Dias na no improvement. I said, the medicine doesn't work for you. But first and second day, they come and tell me, oh, the baby's very good. Is it okay? I said, do you want to stop now?
Lo ultima again, alright? Nasita un complete Tres Dias? Sa wanti manango ipagod talo?
No. Lo, only to clear that out.
All of us have good hearts, no? And so, let's say a patient, when a patient is told by a healer, I'll come back for 3 days so that I will continue with what I'm doing with you. And I, as a patient, who feels much better the first day, I would say to myself, oh, I'm going to do a favor. I'm not going to bother him, the healer, anymore. And so I don't go back. So here am I thinking, I'm happy about that decision that I made because I'm thinking I'm making him happy, but the opposite actually is happening. By not coming back to the healer when you were told to come 3 days, you're causing that healer to have the sickness that you have, or will not be happy. The healer will not be happy because maybe he prepared things for you. So it's very, very important in native medicine that you follow instructions.
No, uno un pateno na cosa importante. Lo más importante, bueno, aju di parumenaji talo. Jamungan non sigi talo mo ki japon. Struktur pa sempisa pa ba amtio. Okay, di prophet na action sa raporsiyan. Pues di pareho sa hospital na sa estimogi mientras te visitan mas mauli.
I explained to you, Anzita. The lady that gave me this medicine, I explained you. Remember?
Yes, Regina Terlahi.
Right. But not to business.
Yes.
Not for business.
Yes.
Because you will never make your patient good if you're, especially for me, no good. If I'm making business on the medicine, no good. Manhunggihaw nejo, eniki tinagu ju uso na lugaji biya. Na humlo ipatgun na humlo italtaw, ginina sinyamu munga ginin interesaw ko sa lapit. Sometimes they give me milk, bread, eggs. I accept. That's Gracia. I will not say what because they put it on the table. That's a blessing. Minagok niya ito.
Yun yung corazon niya. Ang gin manahihaw sa lapi. Right? Ang mapolo lamasa. Kung una-accepta sa lapi?
Who accessita sa gagi kilamasa. Zailing niya, Julie esti sa minagok mami sa naumlu ipat ko. See, only that. But I tell them, if you guys need the money, don't use it. Use it for the baby or whatever. Nga no, minagok figure sa mami esti pahaw. No ha ilik niya, imong nga umuklasi ang pumpanampi.
Umakrasi siya?
Umuklasi means, like when you don't like the person, munya, matsuwi no, gitang to, isaw. Isaw, Tudit tijamu, iklasin itang to, ti para un-accepta sa kamti. No. Munya.
Para ako, ang tahatan is doktor hospital ni man amti no gua klaro na diferensya gua haizuna na amot gua haizuna chetno sangin gua ho amti ne azani na jizo tisinya bayo amten maisaje documento gua winigi museum giza garapan giza saipan no skeleton istine isko no ma isko na magwato kistina isko ki ginin izatinian zane ma date about 200 to 300 500 years ago istina inamko no Calabera isi zonya skone e Calabrania annog na dinansi isti magi Calabrania dinansi sharp di kadito na no dito ko lan sa prafa no lo humomlo ahiu ko isi tetlang ahiu ko no zagina bina tempone thajasti penicillin ni pro pone na siya lo atana sa no ahiu ko ne pues antena tempo siya ko mo ni si pro togina siya lo kay man adi na klasin channel.
And then it kind of made me think about, well, why aren't we doing it, right? People didn't talk about taking their own children to get umpteed. And then I had to think about myself. And my mom, gratefully, my mom took my children to be umpteed, but I never went with her, right? And I thought, well, this is not grandma's duty, like, I should go.
Dios songa na talu itutun podeji kota descuida hit padao atana itatuchuli na leksyon ginin hijok okay na umahalong jata mo mostra na taigwisya molik para tachowi wana bene hukaka sa siludo asuko magawan na sinya ina reklama sistemona padoi we sinanaho ne ay titakla lo na biya lo waan o manironya lo ke ne chichitun gi kultura siya debi o matatizi edi taiwi eno na ninasinya ohi ti hualigo para baisinya du manam ti palafan toza taiwi no lao estimat samuro ne sa kultura lo questi ang inilingnya sinanay na taiwini dan sita pues esta libidi taiwini saman si taiwino eno ne hoy ti hono zonatiko monogato da taiwino ti pareo no este no 18 años no taweno do tira que ni taiwino ne no taiwi tale di con ito ni manamko da tapolo ya manamko senta do fambingo fanno officer na klase na no taiwino no kaya na urizana ako na tauto okay kaya na haata na hinanaw familia siya hindi pa wala na klase no arreglo koni manam ko pegawin koni kumagong pegawin no un gutos office ko huza za informasyon na iti katalong na lastima iti informasyon niya manam ko na pausiga manahono za toza po fanyuli na no umbes ko ako konsidera na dakulong swetizo na manoskizo sa malagawa iti pa no tiwaso lahoden alton siya po chinitse lao swetizo sa fuerzas lo zombis eno kwasiria pa ko na timpuan ay separa imanamko dan imanhobi pues uno ki halumi molik na tapikura na after mano na patahagong connect este na separasyon imanamko dan imanhobi.
A lot of us were treated, umpteen when we were children. And everybody had stories, lots of stories to tell me about their mom or their grandma or their cousin. I mean, tons of stories, because what I was finding was it wasn't a subject that people weren't really talking about. But as soon as you brought it up, people would say to me, "Oh yeah, my grandma used to make medicine," or "Yes, I used to drink that. Oh, the lorigao, that is so bitter. Ew. Everybody, like when you say lorigao or the medicine for the mouth, it brought back memories.
The Paraguayo ki tutuhon ne, just ke we sangan di puri si say healers no, gitutuhon ne bula to, gan gitutuhon bula mas mana zo amti ki gimamolofan siya ti per esempio algum tempo, zangi gimamolofan tempo no itauto y comunidad ma home ki na pues kai na kan easy if you know English we are within the community of believers pues mas no med goods and mas no bapachitika mas celebrate no na tiningo zan ano ki minolek niya Lord especially hasta otuna class in almost it's Western medicine the piozani matutun no kala mama sangani tauto mas hano batu ini hospital mongama so gima pita gim to fanyo ko no stabane bulai mama na fanana ke famagon gi gima sa gasa petera Lord especially hospital mama sangani tauto hano hospital zainage no una razón guaizi mas isi per ta fanona hospital sai kina una razón lokina tita ta lala jeno mas para ta fanona para i man zo amtisa sa hospital. Pas manggay kay ganun na situation po ako.
And then my last son, right, doing all this work, taking him, being pregnant, taking him, into the jungle with me while he was in my stomach. I never got him umpty, and I thought, what a hypocrite, right? I'm doing all this work, we're doing all this research, we're talking about perpetuation and preservation and how we should preserve these practices, and he was already, a few months old, and I didn't get him umptied, and I knew he should have when he was a baby, and I waited for him to get sick, and even when he got sick, I kind of still hesitated, and I had to think to myself, like, why are you hesitating? You know it works. All your other children got umptied. You've seen children be umptied. You work with the umpties. Why are you hesitating? And I had to think hard about that, and I think part of that is my struggle with the Western thinking, and being educated in the Western world. It's like I have this constant struggle every day, about what I know is important for my children to learn and to know, and what the Western world tells me that is important for them to know, and that's just a constant struggle, and that's my own, inner battles. She told me to come and bring my boy, and she umptied him, and I was still very scared, right, because I asked her, I said, Auntie, no disrespect, I just want to know, how do you know that the medicine is not going to go, he's not going to choke, right? I don't want him to choke. And I said, don't be offended, right? Because I know I'm questioning your knowledge and that's not my intent. And she said, day, okay, listen to where the medicine's going to go. And so I heard the medicine the air go down all the way to his belly. I saw him drink it, and she said, after she was done treating him, she said, you know how I know? It's going to come out of his nose. Do you see it coming out of his nose? So she was scolding me because I know that I shouldn't have questioned her. But again, that part of me, struggles to just, accept that this is just the way that we've been doing things. She's, almost 80 years old. She's been doing this for like over 40 years. Would you question the doctor? Did you ever say anything about, hey, this albuterol, what kind of side effects is it going to have? On my boy, and honestly, I didn't question him. I just said, I'll pick up the medicine at the pharmacy and I'm going to try it.
We can never go back to who we are until we decolonize our minds. Because when the Chamorros are colonized, it's not that they're colonized their land. They're also colonized in the mind. I'm a U.S. citizen by force, not by choice. I have no rights to choose my citizenship.
And again, lekuna masyama matalala kay kuturata matalala kay kasindilanalata mga zumuti na ofimin na ulit kesti iamod no natibo sa maulek niya hasta para pago diste pago na maulek niya kini amod hospital ipara fa magon diste kan angin no di problema na diste kani pag mafanyago pes tori if malawan siya basta no laboratorio no ni pa manasagbi tori siya naman gaigi sa healthy sa lo gas bonito zangyan matalibera tati sa tanah serbi tori dos sa pagwa ki segongi riparaho ki istisai iman amtina bisita anok na mas efektibo mas maulik iamod natibo para man ho para famaguan mas maulik kini amod hospital pues como ta comprende man ano no que at least gua prueba gua no prove dan gua sinata ta pandora perestisa anok na magay unggal magay mas no efektibo para amod neni amod natibo kini amod hospital.
Pues magutusin na. Kung hindi ko may kilig ko man magutusin, gihalenta. Kung tawa mismo, gislatan mismo. Man magutusin. Pues may lalong kinzabay na atot si za tapaod ho. Za family na ano gito. Zaman ada tapikura isang halong.
The two common themes are, one, the access to medicine, that some of the amats or some of the plants are very difficult to find, or they're not being found where they used to grow, so you have to trek a lot further into the jungle to have access. And the other issue on Guam is a lot of these medicines are behind the fence, right? So you have to have military access to be able to gain entry onto the base, or you have to get a permit onto Ritidian to be able to access the medicine. So a lot more steps than just kind of going into the jungle and walking and getting what you need.
One is I cannot go in there to my God-given rights to pick medicine in Anderson because we're being locked out of our sacred lands. Two, they're bulldozing the jungles of the island.
Ulur nai mana fantasnya sialum taru. Ejiki pak bu nama maku masuda ihamun.
Sa wana bene hana susustuhin sa luluhanin na masusesi di siapa ako na natin na ipudi amo di federal di sinawato sa kaya istigin na paluma parang fasya kulan di manahadan si sa utungo na todo este niya vision wildlife na parata na importante kaya no que costumbreta kaya hombres la usiana es soko biologist man matto magi deling sai tigi afaju ifani sai tigi no afaju crow isige tagi pustru man mangi za itinigi niya mat tai no atim pumatitin as bago para si dan apa sih sangat sih ina soko na tagi ni mungkin malakaw matikingo lo kuestione kau mahukum mo kung apa masasangan na isa importante siya mo za kulan balagwin na pata sa mani siya manggayfos siya na ililing nga fish and wildlife siya na federal siya na apa na malaga tafamentos za tachogo kultura na manera siya nasuko na parewa inasusustasan siya o pamalagota na para mas mega yan ay iman mamela na generasyon no sinalo ko yung ma-enjoy ito pareho mo pues sini kaya na klase sa mega siya na tali na klase no offer impedimento.
In my experience looking into the jungles and really man the jungle speaks to you and the plants speak to you and they really you can see man that certain plants they grow they love to be under trees and certain plants they love to be out in the open under the sun and they speak to you and one thing that I'm learning from different things off island or online or whatever the case may be and here as well is that native plants are native they don't need any help.
Natitachocho y cultura, sa nangitacho y cultura, tosa necesario neno. Sa gaya y cultura na mafatina sa na para ususteni y hafa un kusinsecha. No, po sustenin mai sagi.
Well, getting into agriculture was really a conscious decision, getting my degree, and it was really because Guam has so much imports, and I felt like we have the energy and resources to really provide for ourselves. And getting into agriculture and deeper, getting into the jungle really made me fall in love with our native plants, and even further, our native medicines and traditional healing. I was easily drawn to the idea and the Haya Foundation because my grandmother was a Zoamti, and a lot of stories I've heard from her, whether it be physical healing and spiritual healing in that sense, I really wanted to become part of the organization.
Pisilili ko na itong kunoso, kung ta comprende itong kunoso, no, inasok ko na sina, tausan, para takuntihin. Kurulone si chenok tayo na lugar siya. Mire siya man inamti. No, ito pun hoja siya dan of siya manggay na iurijota.
What drives me the plant spirits, the plant medicine itself, and keeping this knowledge, our sacred ancestral knowledge, belongs to our people. It has sustained our people for millennia, and this needs to stay in our hands, and we need to give this back to our children and our future generations.
In terms of the perpetuation, many, if not all, the traditional healers want to pass on their knowledge. But the difficulty is that although they've identified a child or children or grandchildren, their children are not willing to take on the practice. They have a lot of, and probably because the healer or the zoamti has many hardships, right? They have to work early in the morning. Most of them had jobs, so they had to work in between their jobs.
This is a fact. Well-known healers, the Bula Tinogonya from Safitu to Naipitodo. But because this person realized that it was a difficult thing to do, to be one like that, purposely he did not give all of what he knew to his children. He just limited. So he knew some things that he purposely did not get because he did not want children to go through the hardship or go through what he went through. So that is a factor in the decrease of the practice and the number of people. The availability of the plants.
And the other issue is being a healer, a zoamti, you're not paid a steady paycheck. I mean, you're given, for the most part, you're given goods, you're given rice or chicken. Some of them are given money, some of them are not accepting of the money. And so that's a hardship, because they kind of rely on things that people give. So how we're trying to deal with this issue is we're trying to build an apprenticeship.
What I'm seeing, Zika, is your effort and the drive to revitalize and practice and having places for plants to be. It's really remarkable, and I thank you for doing that. And everyone else who see that, it's important, because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? No? And I'm happy that we're doing it, and you are a great factor on Guam doing that.
I've lived in Seattle for 13 years. I moved home about 5 years ago, and I got my degree in herbal science, and that through Bastyr University. And my goal was to learn as much about herbal medicine and the scientific aspects of it, with the goal of bringing it home and understanding more about our Amit. And the inspiration behind that was my grandmother, and following her and picking Amit with her, and just realizing that this is something we need to really hold on to and perpetuate. So that was really the driving force living in Seattle.
I fell in love with an aspiring Zoamti, and I promised her that I would grow her medicine. So here I am, really just with all the teachings that I've had and everything that I have learned, I feel like having a natural way of living and a holistic way of living is just the way to go. And we're constantly tearing down our jungles for the concrete jungle, and relying on Western medicines, which sometimes doesn't really save us from what we're looking for. And every time that I've seen traditional medicine at work, I've seen nothing but smiles and tears of happiness because of what they were doubtful about. Traditional medicine ended up exceeding their expectations by far. So that's what drives me every day.
I'm interested and passionate about Omelet Chamorro because it is in my lineage. My grandmother, Juanita Calvo de Oro, was a practicing Surahana. I'm also really interested in preserving our culture and the knowledge around traditional herbs and healing, because our people are suffering from at such epidemic rates of lifestyle diseases such as cancer, heart disease, obesity, and it's important for us to return to the knowledge of our ancestors to help keep us healthy and keep us well in our own homelands. It's important for us to return to the land, return to the ways of our traditional ways to help bring us the healing that we need here.
We have to remember that the food that grows around your location, that's what nature is saying, this is for your body. So we really then need to appreciate and start looking and seeing the value of food that grow here in the Marianas, no? Guam, Saipan, and start eating them. The fresher they are. They say to, like, even fruit, when you take a fruit from a tree, if you eat it within 20 minutes, you get most of its nutrition and its energy. But if it stays in the shelf for, you don't have as much of that energy as it had when you first pick it. And sometimes, so there are a lot of energies all around. Sometimes people have read it that trees have healing energies. Sometimes people, they say, you can just sit down and put your back on a tree, the trunk of a tree, and be there for so many minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and you would get some energy from the tree.
Well, I believe that healing comes from the land, and I learned that at an early age from my great-grandmother to my grandmother and many of my aunties about that we can heal each other, and the youth especially, from using our native medicine and also eating the food that we grow. So for me, it's important for me now as a mother of my own 2 boys that I teach them how to connect with the land, and we grow our own food, and when they're sick, use traditional medicine, because for centuries our people and our land have thrived by using omelet from the land and eating the food that we grow. And we have this, to me, there's a sacred connection between the plants that we grow and the plants that are around us in our environment on the land, that that kind of healing goes hand in hand. So it's important for me and that I see there's a health crisis on our island, and within the last 60 years, that we've been importing food, we can see that our people are suffering. So when I have family and friends, suffering from illnesses, it makes me want to do something about it. And for me, my passion is growing food and sharing plants with others, gifting instead of a gift that I might buy at the store. I might give them a papaya plant. So, sharing the fruits of our land, and healing goes hand in hand with that. Like the old saying goes, food is medicine.
I want to also apologize. Dr. Tricia Lizama would have been here, but she's off island presenting on our work in Korea. So, and now I'd also like to introduce our apprentices. Madam Chair and Senator Atta, everyone working on these projects and everything with Haya Foundation have been doing it on a voluntary basis. So it really has been work of passion and love and desire to heal our people and to improve the health status of our people. And it's really everyone's energies and efforts and a lot of sacrifice. Especially, I'd like to introduce our apprentices who take so much time from their jobs and try and balance and battle, the demands of family. And so I'd like to introduce Maneka Dioro as one of our apprentices. One of our moms is outside, and that's Primitiva Munya. And we have a couple more apprentices that are also struggling with schedules because many of our apprentices have children and young families. But the last apprentice I want to present is Jessica Nangauta. And her passion is food as medicine, and she's going to do a real short presentation and exactly to what you were asking about.
A little bit about plans for we had talked a little bit with the Chamorro Land Trust to identify some property, and one of the properties they had told us about was located right behind Enrahan Middle School. So we got really excited about that because it's a chance and an opportunity for us to work hand in hand with the school. So the property is located right behind. Hopefully we can it's not set in stone yet, but we still need to view it and go through the process of obtaining the land. But I think this is a great opportunity for us to put our foundation down and plant some of our trees that we have been putting in pots for many, like she said, a couple years now. And these trees, the medicine plants, they need to get in the ground. They've been in pots. So our plan is to establish a farm there, and we can talk a little bit about more of the specific plans on how we can tackle this farm plan. We've been going out with several of our healers to obtain some medicine plants, and we've been fortunate enough to have them. Right there, PDF. Okay. So, it's a work in progress. Okay, so yeah. So the idea is to construct an integrated farm. We're hoping for an area greater than 5 acres. I know it's a lot to ask, but this would include something that has aquaponics, horticultural crops that of course includes our medicine, fruits, vegetables, and ornamental crops that we use. Like I said earlier, food is medicine. So we want to promote this idea to the students that eating healthy, fresh, and being a part of the process of plants growing. An animal production area, hopefully we can have some egg layer hens. I at home raise my own, but there's a bunch of farmers, and that's a good way for us to use the manure to add fertility to our soil, but also to our crops that we grow. And of course, to educate and conduct outreach programs and workshops to students, apprentices, and community members. So we have different steps here on how we would tackle this farm. So of course, our step 1 is to measure the farm area, do a soil survey to make sure that the plants that we have will be able to grow in this environment, and the topography, measure out what it might look like. So this is a really rough draft. It's nothing, but it just shows you the different areas that we'd like to see in this over 5-acre farm, hopefully. Aquaponics area, Agumazo Amti, of course, a place where the southern residents can have a place to be umtied. Our workshop area, so that we might have communities come over and we do workshops. Horticulture area and an animal production area, and they're all kind of separate area but all integrated. The second step is to the foundation of the farm. What we would like to do is install irrigation system and a drip irrigation system, because it helps to save on water, cost of water, and it's probably one of the most efficient ways to add water to the farming system. Of course, propagate and establish windbreaks. The first part of our farm would be assuring that the border of our property is surrounded by windbreak trees that would help protect us from our natural occurrences, typhoon, heavy winds, etc. Second is build our Gumazo Amti and our workshop. Hopefully the foundation of our aquaculture system, and also the production facility for our animals. So our step 3 is to develop a horticulture field that includes these long-term fruit crops, our local lemai, mango, avocado, whatever it may be, our long-term medicinal trees like the agao, noni, there's a bunch. Plant long-term ornamental crops, and also cultivate several crops for quick returns. So hopefully we can make some extra money to whatever buy needed supplies. And also, you can switch. So of course our goals, there's so many goals we'd like to accomplish in this. To establish the farm, teach cultural farming and medicinal practices to our students as well as community members, to provide the students with training opportunities in this system, being that it's so close to the school that they're able to just walk through to the back of the school, and the teachers can help them get their hands in the soil, do some educational STEM learning out in the garden, and etc. And also provide training opportunities for these medicinal plants, and
Perhaps one of the goals from the resolution was to establish that Gumazoamti. And when we opened it on May 22nd, in time for FestPac, that goal we achieved, we realized that one goal that has been part of the resolution. We never realized how overwhelming the demand was. And so there was a survey done at Second Cultura tomorrow with all the participants that came people who came flocking to during FestPac. The majority, over 60% of people, were always looking for Gumazoamti and for healing. And so our healers were constantly in demand. We had healers from 13 countries, and all were very, 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 very busy throughout that time. And since then, we also had a healer from Nauru who stayed behind for 2 weeks to conduct training to our apprentices as well as to our healers, and to share that knowledge. And since then, our Gumazoamti has been taking off. Again, the challenge is that, Madam Chair and Senator, is that it's all been done by volunteers, and I think we're at a point where we have been really overtaxed, and to be successful and to really develop, our traditional healing, we really need your support. The fiscal year 2014 grants and funds that were given to us was $15,000 for 2014, and for 2015 we had $15,000. We really appreciate that money, and Senator Ada, prior to, we were discussing about as little as what we have been very creative about is whatever funds we take from everywhere. We try and be also self-sustaining, and I think we're grateful that the experience in not having that much money kind of helped us to really do the work ourselves, to understand what it took, to understand every element as we proceeded. However, we're at a point where we're so fearful. After the production of this documentary, a month after, one of our zo'amtis passed away. So we're really concerned about how much time do we have left with the healers that we have. Just so you know, we've been conducting a lot of workshops and outreach already. We've been doing it that's what we use the funds for. So I will have all the details of that budget and providing documents and workshops. But another thing is we were able to, we are now being asked by many companies to come and present all our findings. They want to know more. There is a demand. We had to ask them to stop. We couldn't proceed because of FESPAC. So we will be taking that up again. But again, it really, as the president of the nonprofit organization, my heart breaks when I ask Jessica, Maneka, Ursula, PJ, Mativa to take away from their job, to get away from their jobs and do all this work. And, they're struggling to make ends meet for their families. And so we hope that as we grow, as we find many people who want to join our efforts, that we now are at a point where we need to seek operational funds and to grow really quickly. And we'll be coming back to you to secure property from Chamorro Land Trust that like Jessica has shared. We've been already discussing it with them. We've met with the commission. We've met with the staff. We've met with the director. So we've done a lot of homework prior to. We're now at the point where we want you to be informed of all the work we've been doing and hopefully gain your support as we come back to you for this type of effort.
First of all, Madam President, I want to say, and to everybody that's here on Dunklin Nasito Smasi, I want to thank my good colleague and the staff that's here for taking the time to stay. I noticed that on the side, and I'm hoping that the camera can zoom into where the plants are at here, the display of the plants that in your interview, in the presentation, that are getting harder and harder to find. And what we need to do to be, as the policy-making body, is to help support the efforts to preserve and to at least see what we can do to continue to grow these plants out in our area. The request is large. The funding that's needed is probably going to be large. But I think that with the support from this August body, I think that we can move forward. I'm going to ask you to do very important and critical infrastructure that's going to be needed. We need to work on the portfolio to what you've given here is a justification of why we need to continue to move this forward. All the apprentices and the volunteers that are here, I can't thank you enough. I shared with my colleague, Senator Rada, that growing up, I was one who didn't believe. I know, Miss Sita, your daughter is a doctor. I have a nephew who's a doctor, real MD, and yet us reverting back to some of the cultural beliefs and traditions that we had growing up made me a believer. They said we're not supposed to leave. We're supposed to look at modern technology and Western, what was taught to us by the Western culture. But yet, when I had my daughter, who was very young, she's 36 now, was really, really sick, was in the hospital. They couldn't do anything for her. She had blisters all over her tongue. And so this is a story to tell. And the Surahana, my auntie Pak says, I'm going to take her to the Surahana. And I said, no, you're not. And of course, with some struggles, I said, okay, let's go. And we went, and she takes this green medicine, puts it in a white cloth, and it had to be a white cloth, free from any dyes. She takes it, she wrings the medicine in the white cloth, and she's ready to put it in my daughter's mouth, and I'm like really afraid that this wasn't going to work. And of course, again, the Suruhana tells me, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Your daughter's going to eat. And I'm going to give her these crackers, saltine crackers. And I said, she's got blisters all over her mouth. You cannot tell me that, in my head, you cannot tell me she's going to eat right after this medicine gets put into her. She said, oh yes, she's going to throw out the medicine and I'm going to give her the crackers and she's going to eat it. Lo and behold, to my disbelief in the beginning, my daughter threw up, took the cracker, ate it like nothing was wrong, and that if anyone didn't see her with all the blisters in her mouth, being sick, going to the clinic. So I said, this is something that I now believe. And that was 30 some years ago. Fast forward today, we hear a presentation saying plants are hard to find, apprentices, taken away from the private, from their livelihoods, volunteering, everything's labor of love. Our commitment is how do we help each other so that we can build upon the apprentices, the students, working it and looking at a place where we can work with the public school system. You've worked that pilot project. I wanted to ask the success of that. Is it still there? And how can we take that and emulate it into a program and make it run right away?
We've been working and discussing it after FastPack. First of all, the project halted because of with the need for curriculum to be aligned with the core standards. Therefore, because of that, we then sent a team to Hawaii, and they went through a train-the-trainer program. Part of the funds she gave us supported a person and the lodging, and so that funding also supported that effort. So we now have resources and working with teachers for alignment of this curriculum so that the garden becomes part of the way kids learn, but still meet the standards of DOE. What was really exciting, just to take you another step further, because it's a bigger picture now. The healers during the FestPack, 13 countries, all in all. We had 5 different ministers from different countries also came and signed up with us to establish the Pacific Indigenous Indigenous Healers Consortium as a result of our meetings. And we have 22 members, and it will be chartered in Palau. And what we saw was we all kind of are experiencing our challenges and difficulties within all the other countries, but some have progressed really farther along, some are behind, but all healers within the Pacific Rim speak about the need to support each other and be one voice. And so this is going global in our efforts, and it's really exciting. And so we hear from Palau, and so we're now in a discussion about bringing a trainer here to speak and work with our teachers as well as our apprentices. And then from next summer, we hope to send those teachers, a couple of our apprentices, and some students to Palau to work these systems. We're moving really fast track because, again, time is of the essence. We're losing healers, and all of us in the Pacific Rim are recognizing that. The other thing is we're losing our halimtano. And every time I hear about, I think last night I was here and there was a discussion about commercial leases of our Chamorro Land Trust, and it's like our halimtano needs to be protected, and so we face those challenges. But I think through dialogue that we know the ultimate is to improve the health and well-being of our people. That's our mission. I'm sure that's your mission. But our ancestors have a lot of answers for us, and we're so grateful that we still have healers that know that knowledge, have that knowledge, and we gotta move it forward. Please know that the documentary still needs a little improvement, but our plan is to get it out on YouTube and just get free access to everyone. So our educational process is to get as much information out there, and put it out in public. There's no sale. We're looking for support all the time, but education is primary. Perpetuation, promotion, getting people interested. And right now the demand is really great. But there's just few of us. There's a long line of people who want to join this bandwagon, but our process now needs to be supported with operational funds. But we're not the kind that sit on monies and think that it's going to keep going. If you see our experience and what we have produced with very little, we can assure you we're not going to be dependent and reliant on, just believing that the money's going to come. We're always looking to be able to self-sustain.
I think the next question then, Madam President, is to ask what timeline are you looking to do a follow-up presentation to this August body so that we can be able to look at your requests and move forward with policy legislation to work in this preservation. You've talked about the land, you've talked about the resources, you talked about the education, you talked about the apprentices, and we see the infrastructure and the preliminaries here. So I'm asking you right now, what timeline can you give us to finalize your portfolio to send to us so that we can move forward on this?
Madam Chair, the effort, we've been pushing it really farther, but my discussion with the Director of Land Management and Chamorro Land Trust is that there's no meeting in July. The meeting won't be held until August, and so like all these different, there's all these different aspects of the plan. However, we've been working the budgets in terms of what we need so that whatever monies we get, we're also trying to generate revenue from it. So again, we know that the government's budget funds crisis is really difficult, but we're looking that when we get monies, that this will be also self-generating. Like part of our effort is like we would love to get a commercial tiller, composter, so that we can generate funds that way. But again, looking at that, our animals, our eggs, our hens and stuff that will generate that and get produce out and grow things and stuff like that. So I'm sorry I diverted, but we are working as expediently as possible. We're hoping our budgets will be completed because we've sent out quotes and stuff. We hope that it'll be ready in a couple of weeks. The only problem is, again, in terms of the big master plan, is dependent on our conversations with Chamorro Land Trust. And we've been meeting discussing it almost on a weekly basis and follow-ups, but sometimes more than weekly.
Thank you so much for the information. Senator Ada, for any comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to comment on the presentation, the video presentation. I think it was very informational. You don't realize the importance of natural healing, and the importance of our local healers. And it takes me back to when my sister needed a healer. And nowadays it's very difficult to find a healer. And I think when you get the people together and finally come up with who the healers are, and hopefully a directory will come out of it, and be able to, that when people are looking for a healer and to help them, that it's not like where it is today, where you got to know the families who are the healers, and then hopefully they know somebody who will know somebody else who will finally get you to the person that you need, and hopefully by that time comes, that it's not too late, and it was very educational, very I was at a point where I wanted to see where the presentation, that's why I stayed for the whole presentation. The importance of having our healers, the importance of protecting our plants, protecting our herbs, It just it gives you a whole new perspective of what we actually could lose one day. And when would that day be? It's all dependent upon us all
Yeah, it's very close.
to protect it.
It's
right?
very, very close. Senator Ada, just 2 comments on that. So now our residents are able to access traditional healers at Gumat Zoamti up at Sagan Katura tomorrow. So the healers are there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and they can call for appointments by and call our receptionist, who's a volunteer, at 747 AMTE, AMTE, which is, I keep forgetting the number. 747-2683. So anyone in need of healing can call that number and schedule an appointment.
Yeah, see, that's good to know.
Yes, and so I know that this is so we can get that word out, right? Yeah. So that's one. And then also in terms of traditional healing, Senator, you spoke about my daughter being a doctor, your nephew is a medical doctor. What we say and what we're perpetuating here. My daughter said, "Mom, what do you tell people? They know you have a daughter as a doctor." We need both. We need both. And so it's not either or, but there are traditional healing that is most effective, that's traditional, right, than for our children and our women. And there are those that are more effective with Western healing. And we need that. So a lot of our healers recommend that our people go to doctors to get assessed first, to make sure, and then they come back. So we're not saying either or. We need all.
I want to share with you folks here that we do have a budget hearing, and we started budget hearing here for the agencies today, and I want to thank the Oversight Chair for giving us the opportunity to share in that. I know that resources are really hard to find, but I know that this is very critical and very important. The opportunity for us to engage with the educational perspective, inclusive of that, can come probably even sooner than later. I'm going to ask you guys again to please work closely with us, work on a portfolio to share with us so that we can at least address a little to get you while you're moving forward. I say that because one of the mission mandates from a special fund that we utilize, that has been utilized from the Tourist Attraction Fund, which I will, as Oversight Chair, say that you have fulfilled the mission mandate for promoting and perpetuating who we are as island people, and promoting that to others, not just around our neighboring islands, but internationally. The Festival of the Pacific Arts gave Guam the opportunity not just to host, but to collaborate, to come together and bring the best of the best. You talked about the Nauruan, the gentleman from Nauru who stayed behind because there was a large request, but more importantly, because the similarities that they have in their country and working closely with us was a very positive thing. I can say that one who visited through request went up to visit just recently, and I was looking, as I was leaving, I was looking at the cars coming in, and I saw a very young man and a very young lady with their baby in the infant seat having to get medicine, Chamorro medicine. Last night, I had the opportunity to meet him at the Sentimental Journey for the World War II survivors. It was a display and a remembrance for World War II and those who suffered and died, but more importantly, those who are still here living. And this young man, I asked him, I said, "So you didn't see me, but I saw you rushing in to see the Surhana Zoamte." And I said, "How did it go?" And he goes, I said, "Was it for you or for the baby?" And he said, "It was for the baby." And I said, "How was your baby?" And he said, 3 times everything's fine. Baby was really not feeling well, and he said that everybody up there was just great. And I said, was it busy? And he said it got busier, because it was busy when I was there, but it was even busier afterwards. And I saw from the sinus, and I want to say that Mama Chai is 80 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of the older ones.
Yes.
And believe me, we've got to continue to promote this. Ladies and gentlemen, our whole island is listening. Our residents at home have the opportunity to watch this channel. So we may not be plenty here, but the whole island is listening. So you need to know that we will. This is being recorded. You will receive a copy. We've satisfied the funding source that was given to you. We do know that the request for 2017 is also there. We need the final numbers from you. We may not be able to make the complete commitment, but we will work on something. And we hope to hear that. I'm going to call this round table to adjournment if there's no other questions or comments. Any? But I really want you to please, to the apprentices out there, to the Surhanos, Masi, please continue to stay close with us. Please continue to share the information. This venue is open for you to share to the people of Guam your updated work, and we would love to have you do that. And then we would love to hear and see that portfolio real soon, or projection.
We will. We already have the property maps and everything. So, yes, we've been working diligently and a lot of work. But, I know you took a lot of time. We took a lot of time. But we are eternally grateful. And, when you support us, this is what you get. And you will see huge crowds. I mean, we're seeing the demand. There's more. But I think our service to the people of Guam, your support makes it go a long way. Thank
you. The Committee on Municipal Affairs, Tourism, Housing, and Guam Preservation has come to an adjournment. It is 5 minutes till 7. Sainamasi, si Joson Bini DC, I'm just